Coffee container. I think everybody I know saves me coffee containers. One. Two. Now I realize if you were doing, spraying in a house or something like that, you'd probably use a little bigger container. And plastic gallon buckets work pretty good. And I'll tell you what, if you take a gallon of latex paint and you put it in a plastic bucket and you add about half a quart, average, this is about a half a quart of water, you're usually pretty good. You don't want to get really thin, because again, you go to put it on the wall, it's not going to do real well. That's not quite a full ladle. Now when I mix it up, again, you can see right, the water's kind of sitting on top, so I got to mix it good. I know you can't really see it, but you see here on top, it's just water, pretty much water. But it doesn't take a lot to thin it. Now I know everybody out here is, well, you got to use distilled water and all. No, not in paint. All right, we're going to see, this is a little heavier than what the black is, just a little bit. And that's the reason for the 2.0. That feels pretty good. So it may be just a little slower. Yeah, it's a little slower coming out than going in. Now once I fill this strainer, but again, that 2.0 is going to allow us to produce more fluid. Now here's what's going to happen. When I spray this wall, I'm going to open my fluid up pretty much as I can. I'm painting the wall. When we get to the when we get to the gravity fed rather, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to have to reduce my fluid, because I've only got a 1.5 in that. All right. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot this, and I want you to watch the pattern on the wall. Then I'm going to pull the 4-stage out using the same exact gun and setup, and we're going to look and see how much difference what the difference is using that 4-stage turbine and using a 3. Now we already know that with the compressed air, we can put as much pressure as we want. So let's do it. What I've got the 3-stage right here and the 4 with this thick latex paint. Now when I start getting a texture like that, again, I know that I need to back down on my fluid a little bit to get a finer texture. When you get really thick, trying to get that really fine texture is very, very difficult, just with a handheld spray gun. Let's go to the 4-stage. Now, I don't know how well that's showing on camera, but the 4-stage, now you noticed I reduced the pattern just a little bit. This is white on black. Basically, that's one good wet coat and it's covered. And it's wet, that's going to lay out and make a nice paint. But not to be undone, before we go to the MDF, we're going to get that 2-stage Erlex in here, and we're going to get that gravity fed. Matter of fact, let me get the gravity fed right now. That paint's wet, but we'll see. Gravity fed, HVLP, Harbor Freight paint. This is a little thinner than the white, but you can hear I got the pressure cooked up a little bit. Yeah. Kicking that pressure up. Now I can tell you now, I'm getting low in this cup, and I told you about this. I can tell the difference from not having the cup full. Again, that tall cup, that pressure on that fluid makes a big difference in the atomization. Okay, not to be confusing here, what I did is I took this white paint and I thinned it just a little bit more, and I mean, where I think we did, what, 3 ladles of paint and about 2/3 of a ladle of water, I probably added a full ladle of water. I mean, meaning I just topped it off. I added just a little, just thinned it a little. Texture's much finer, completely changed the complexion. The reason I went through all of this is to have you understand when you're spraying paint and you have it in your head that you can go out here and take thick latex paint and put it in one of these guns and spray it, you can't. They're just not made for that. But you can spray paint. Now, some guns, you can go up as high as a 2.5 needle. But again, the bigger the needle, the more fluid you're going to put on there, and typically the coarser your texture is going to be. That's the way it works. Now we're going to get the Erlex out here and take a look at it. Now the Erlex, I've got a 2.0, but I'm just going to go with what I got in it, which I think is a 1.5. Yeah, 1.5. So see what it does. Right, the Erlex. Now what I've done, again with this paint, and again this 1.5 needle nozzle, I've backed off, I've increased the fluid. Now, back to the Apollos. Can you spray latex paint with a 1.5? Sure you can. You know, the 2.0 is kind of recommended for paint, particularly doing a wall or whatever. But but when we're doing furniture and whatever, that 1.5, that's, you know, even though it's latex paint, we can break it down enough that with those pressurized cups, we can get a nice coating, and we'll see that when we do our top. All right. All right, obviously the Latex is spray paint. I think what we've shown here is they'll all spray paint, so don't get freaked out. And we saw the importance of viscosity and working and getting your ratio right. Again, there's not a magic formula, because as you saw, particularly when you get into latex paints and whatever, they're all over the place. Just adding a little bit more water to it made all the difference in the world.